So I'm going to be making some bookmarks, and it's really thinking about all the textures and stuff that I've got left behind from work that I've done before, all the lovely papers and so on. So I'm using up the papers to make something useful, to make little presents and so on. So there's one. All the papers that I've made in these books are demonstrated on other videos, so you can give them a go if you want to. Just try and find something fairly neutral so that you can see what I'm up to. Here we go. So there's that one, which is just papers, and this again is in another video. I'll put a link to that video. Those are momigami papers, and the painted tissue papers on the back, I'm going to just decorate that a bit more. It's not quite enough. This was fabric that I'd painted and wrapped round a piece of heavy watercolour paper that somebody had given me that are just scraps, and then finished off at the back with a piece of paper. So you've got these lovely little bookmarks that clip over pages, and you can see from the top that's a bit of leftover abstract, and these are two bits of this lovely heavy paper. I've got strips of watercolour paper, heavy watercolour paper, that's probably about 300 grams, and I have got strips of plastics from milk bottles and things like that. And some of them I cut in half just to have as a backbone. That'll just give something some strength. So I've got a few sort of basic pieces to work with, which I'm going to cover. I'm using anything and everything I have had, you know, I've made in the past. There's loads of really nice bits of colour that we can use. I used to be a traditional upholsterer, so I've done a lot of sewing and a lot of folding and making. So far we've just used ruler, knife and these plastics. I also cut up a carton, an open carton. So the glue I'm going to use is going to be my methyl cellulose, but I'm mixing it with a good quality PVA wood glue. I'm not too worried about the longevity of these, in the sense that, you know, before they rot, before this wood glue affects it, these products will have come to the end of their life in any case. So it's about half and half of wood glue and methyl cellulose, and I just really trust wood glue, and I'm going to use it like it was stitching. Now I'm going to think about it in terms of all that. For those of you that sew, I'm going to have to get rid of that side. So I treat it much like I would a piece of fabric. I want a piece of paper that's going to fold over and meet really neatly in the middle. So my piece of paper has to be just slightly wider than that, so that's 1 inch. So I want this at least 2 inches, but I'm going to make it 2.5. So you want to mark that. So mark 2.5, 2.5, and it doesn't have to be exact. And I'm going to do it on my cutting board. So knife. Okay, get rid of that because it's easier for you to see, I think. So now you've got your piece of paper, you're going to run inside there. You run it down one side and you press down with your bone folder so that you know it's going to fold over nicely. Then again, same with the other side. Not really bother to measure it, I'm just going to lay the piece of paper down on it. In fact, it's the width of this, isn't it? It's the width of this ruler, so I can just go in like that. I'm just going to make it slightly larger, you know, minimally larger. There we go. So once you've done your bone folder, it folds really nicely. And you know it's going to meet up just nicely in the middle and make a nice neat seam. And that's going to be your inside. Just check everything's going to be nice. It is. And then same at the end, get your ruler, mark off the end, mark off the end of this one as well, and cut off any extra. Right, this is going to fold down first, then this is going to fold back on top of each other. It's going to be lovely and neat little edge. So you want to get rid of some of the extra, but not all of it. because you want that little folded edge on the top. So I'm just taking it out like that. Okay, so when I glue that down, there's still a folded edge on the top, like so, and I want it done on both sides like that. And just make sure it's neat, so it doesn't hang over. It's just a question of a bit of fiddling until it's nice and neat. And do that for both ends. So I'm just going to repeat this. That's going to fold over. I don't want too much excess, so I'm just taking off that bit. There you go, so it's like that. And then stick that down. And it's the start of your bookmark, which is really lovely. Okay, I'm going to glue all that down. So use your glue liberally. I probably should be doing it over a piece of newspaper at this point. In fact, I will. Just going to do it over some newspaper. So you take the glue right up to the edges. Make sure there's enough right on the edge so it's going to stick down. Then in goes your piece of card. It's not card, but card would do. Fold over the ends. Just make sure you've got your fold in the right place. Get rid of this now. Fold over these ends first. Make sure that edge is going to be nice and flat and neat. And just put more glue on these edges so that everything sticks down. Okay, so that's your first bit of that type of bookmark. So that's a really simple one. And the edges are neat. And just ease everything down because the paper gets soft with the glue, so it becomes really malleable as well. This was 240 gram cartridge paper that was painted in acrylics. And now the best thing to do is to really make sure there's no glue on the outsides of it. And maybe put it down under something that's got a bit of weight on it. But actually that's going down really nicely, so you don't need to bother too much. So you end up with a really nice little neat edge. And you can decorate this as much as you like. I mean, I've got some green blobs here. They're cut out of papers I've already made with a stamp. So you can do that. You can take the other side of it and wrap it round. Because what I'm going to do as well is you can take it to the other side, wrap them round and stick it down. I'm going to lay another layer so there will be no seam edge. I mean, the seam edge hardly shows, it doesn't really matter. But I just sort of decorate it and make it interesting and nice. And I just use up all the bits I've got. I mean, that's lovely, going the wrong way as well. So really, there's tons of things you can use. I mean, I could do it from that way. I was going to cut a thinner slither and just put that inside and just stick it inside like that as well. So that anything I wrap round it, it's going to be covered by this as well. What could I wrap round it? I've got so much stuff. I mean, that's lovely. Right, I'm going to wrap that round it. I'm just going to neaten it off and wrap it round. And glue it down. So make sure you take it to the back so your glued edges are on the back. Cut off any extra. And I'm just going to make sure there's enough glue in that bit too. Turn it round. Cut off the extra. And this is so thin. That was painted tissue paper. So that's so thin that goes down in any case. Ah, that's lovely. And that's even that with a rough edge is nice. So you've got that. I wonder if I could, might just a little. I just like that thing, that shape. So, and the colour, I mean. So I'm just gonna bung that on and just decorate it a bit at this point. That's nice on there. So honestly, it's just, this is where your creativity comes into it, isn't it? You just do what you want to it, or leave it as is. And then all that's in position, and you can let that glue dry or not, as the case may be. And then the other side, you can bring in another piece like so. Okay, and the other side, I could easily just run that down there. So I just want it slightly narrower than that, so that I know to be 1 inch. And I'm just gonna measure this off. It's just under 1 inch. I've got 3/4. This out the way again. I need my cutting mat. And then that's going to run down, cover up any little bits of scruffiness on the back, and it also helps to seal it down. It looks neat. So I'm just going to make it slightly smaller than the actual piece. Then glue it up again, bring your paper back, glue this time the other side, with plenty of glue, so right up to the edges. Just centre it. So you have a nice little bookmark. I just picked up something off the... There you go. And I fold them so that they end up like that, so that it fits over the page. So you can just see it. And again, I'd just wait till it was dry and then use the bone folder to make the folds. But that's one. So that was similar to that one. That one's actually covered in fabric. So I just glued the fabric down first, made it join in the middle neatly, and lined it at the back after putting a little bit of decoration. That needs hardly anything because the fabric is so nice in itself. This one works on the same principle, exactly the same principle, only I've used a sort of collage of bits and pieces there. This was a lovely piece, this one. This was cotton covered in red threads, then a piece of tissue paper stuck over the top of it. So the cotton was laid down, covered in glue, sprinkled with the red threads, and then tissue paper, glued tissue paper laid down on top of it. So you get this really lovely fabric, and that's got no interior. And this was lovely as well. That was a piece of fabric that I'd painted, and I've just folded over the edges really neatly and stuck it down. This one I think needs a bit more done to it. It's sort of not quite enough, although it is nice. I don't know, I quite like it. And that's almost nice down there as well. And even that's nice. It's just nice, isn't it? You've got so many bits and pieces, you can just keep adding to them. You see, afterwards, after I've glued them all up and everything, and they're dry, I actually put a acrylic glaze on them too, to seal them. To make sure that you know, all the stuff you've applied doesn't come off. I liked this one. I could do one where I add bits and pieces that's got glue on it, so I'm just going to turn it round. First of all, I have to do my bone folding, and I know this isn't going to meet up in the middle, but I can put another strip on it. Then fold it over and fold at the ends and take out the excess, just so that it's not bulky, it's neat. Same as the other one. Glue it up. And pull the bits over nice and tight. And a bit more glue in the edge there. Now, because this doesn't join, you know you're going to have to put in a strip, that's all. And you just find a lovely strip that goes with it. Make sure that's nice, going to go in nice and neat. I just love this piece of abstract paper from one of the abstracts. You know, I cut it off the side of it because it didn't look right on the abstract. Just make sure those tops are nice, so they make really nice neat edges. Okay, and then just make sure everything's sticking down. Just keep checking. Okay, enough glue in this inside edge because that's not sticking. And then it's just a question of choosing what you want to go on the back. So you've got that on the front, which is lovely, isn't it? And also, what are you going to do at the bottom? And I've got this, which would look nice. Just looks nice, even with the bits, you know, the painting from the previous thing going through. I can put this and something else. So that's what I'm going to do. I love this colour. So I did like that. I don't like it. There's a little bit of white. I don't like it. I really like this showing through, you know. This is mulberry paper, just a bit of mulberry paper I had lying about. So let's see. Just going to glue that down. The mulberry paper is really strong. I mean, it's a very good thing to use. And I want to show that mark. There we go. And I like the texture on it as well, so that's fine as is. Then I want a piece of black, some sort of colour. This was a lovely piece of fabric that I'd painted. So I can show you how I would do this fabric, because you fold it over like so, pull it round, do the same with the edges as you had done with the other one, and you end up with something like this. So I'm just going to show you. So I don't need much. I'm just going to neaten off the edges of things, just so that they're not too bulky. I think the biggest thing about using fabric is that it gets very bulky if you're not careful. You know, you see the edges like mad. I don't think I've cut enough of that. Oh yes I have. Right, get my newspaper back. And first of all I'm going to do a nice neat edge so it folds over nicely. So I'm just taking that over like so and trying to keep it straight. I will then glue up all of this fabric like mad, like so, including the bit I've just folded over, and look far enough down that I know it's going to cover the thing. Lay this over, put it up so that it covers that. A bit more on the end here, and then I'm going to do the same as I would do with the papers. Cut it back, fold it back, and then there's still not enough glue on that. And then just fold them over. That one can go first because it's a bit scruffier. And this is all going to be covered up with another piece of paper onto the back, so actually how it all fits down doesn't really matter. But what you want is to not have the bulk, I suppose. And you want nice neat ends. And then you end up with that. And then you just decide what piece you want to go on the back. And if you want any further embellishments, I mean, honestly, you can sew into this as well before you. I think that would look nice with some sewing. I might do that. Not much. I mean, it's so nice as it is. I'm such a glutton for it all. So that's going to be really nice and neat when it's all dried down and when I put a back onto it. I might just put a black on that. Even paint a strip to put on that because I like that quite stark. Right, I know what I'm going to do on the back of this one. I've got this lovely stuff which would look really nice on there. So just got a fairly rough edge there with my knife. But I do want the elegance of a straight line. So I'm just going to straighten off that edge. I'm going to do the same as I did before. I'm going to do it 1 inch. Put it down. You make sure it's going to go on nicely. There. Right. So that's it. That's all you have to do. There we go. Just pop that over. Centre it enough. Stick it down. Okay, so there's another one down. I was thinking I quite fancied this strip going round there and actually into that, like that. Yes, I do. So here goes with that. I'm just popping it over what's already there. I think. If I put it round there. I'll put it round there. And I don't mind that it's creased. I just want it to look nice. It's really for this other side. So that's it. There. I have no idea what that's going to look like when it's dry. I just wanted a bit of detail on this side as well. Okay, so that's done. I like those, like that, and I like these. This was done in exactly the same way as this bottom one was done, only you did the whole of the thing in the fabric and then pulled it over to the back. I did the little embellishment first and then laid the back over. And this is done in exactly the same way, but just in segments, just to give you ideas. So this one was made out of papers that I'd monogamied in the past. This was 240 gram cartridge paper, which I paint in acrylics. And then I've got these lovely papers. I mean, they're almost Japanesey before you even start. So I would cut strips of them, and you can back them with a board. I didn't in this case. That's just the monogamied papers. I'm just going to show you how I did it. But it's just a question of thinking how you finish off the edges so that they're neat. For instance, this was done, the actual fabric underneath was done as I showed you. Then this was folded over as I showed you with this one. But I will just show you. I'm going to go for this very abstracty looking bit at the bottom here and see if I can use it. So I want enough to be able to fold over and then fold over itself again, and then to have a nice neat edge at the bottom. Once it's all glued down, all the rips and tears don't matter. I'm just going to cut it round it first and take off some of the rough bits. We're left with something, so you could literally fold it over like so, then fold it over like so. And if you wanted to, you can fold that back down again and make a really neat edge, and you wouldn't even have to put a seal on the back. It just helps, and you end up with something, once the glue's in there and everything, it's pretty strong. If you wanted to, you could put more in there, you know, cut yourself a piece. But that actually came out really strong and really tough, so I'm not too bothered with that. But so you've got that piece, and then you want this other piece, which was this, which I literally, I'm going to just cut a piece out. I've just made it neat as possible. I mean, as you can tell, I'm not that neat. So I would fold over the end and stick it down. So I put the fabric side out, I fold over the edge, stick it down, and then bring these bits in. Now this is a bit more tricky because it doesn't actually want to fold quite so well. And I know that any raw edge is going to be covered in a nice strip. So, and also the thicker I use it, the more sort of density, because I've got a double thickness here, I may as well go for it. Do you know what I mean? I'm going to start off with the ends and fold them over and get rid of any excess again, as per usual. So, just so that it's as bulkless as possible. But I want the nice folded edge. I don't take away that completely like you would a book. And then you fold that down so it's nice and neat. knowing that when you fold it over, they're going to be lovely neat edges. If you do this to a piece of card underneath it, you're more likely to get a nice shape, aren't you? In fact, I might do, no, I'm not going to. So now I'm just going to glue it down. So loads and loads of glue in there. There's glue right up to the edge. This is just the first part of my bookmark. Take that over and glue this up. Right, just make sure that you're taking it over enough. All the way down. This was a pretty irregular piece of fabric, so in which case I want this folded over a bit more. Pull that over. And then if you want to keep it really regular, you can start measuring it, can't you? 5 and 5, but it's about right in any case. So I'm just absolutely going to make sure there's enough glue on all that. And already, you know, the sort of density of it's really changed. There we go. Okay, and neaten off any of the bits here, just to make sure it goes down really nicely. I should have washed my hands before I did the second one. Right, so you end up with that, which is gorgeous in itself. And then this bit, decide which piece you want for a start. There's a tear in there, but it doesn't matter, you can fill it with acrylic. And I mean, I think that's really lovely pattern. What I'll do is exactly the same. Take over the edge first to fold it back to make it neat. And then that, you get the one with a raw salvage, and you take it down to the bottom of that, and then that's going to go over like that. Fold over again like so. So you end up with something like that. I want as much of this as possible just to give it extra strength, so I'm going to keep most of that. And do I want the whole of that length? No, I don't. So take that off. Know that this is going to be folded back as well, so folded back and probably all the excess taken off, but I'm going to see how this goes first. On goes the glue, and you could put a piece of plastic inside this from your milk bottle and give it a bit of strength, but I don't want to actually. Right, so that's the front. And that's the back. Pop that over like so. Do I want a piece of thing in it? No. Right, bring that over. One. And keep it straight again. Then this over. 2. And then I don't want this edge right over this edge. I want it more or less down the middle, because that's how I'm going to decorate it. There. Squeeze all these in. There you are. And I could have actually taken that back. I want that down the middle as well. So I want that off, because I just want to run something down the middle to decorate this. So just give this a moment and take that out. I need to just take it out as far as it needs to. Put everything back down again. Flat. Looks nice and neat. And I don't mind that it's got a little bit of shoulder. So now you've got neat ends. You've got a lovely funny little thing. You've got the acrylic finish already. I mean, I've got this bit that I could actually just put on like so, which sort of carries the pattern down, like so. You can put anything you like on this. So now, what do you want to do next? This is cardboard that has been painted in acrylics. I think I've got some oil on that, some nut oil, but it's very old. You know, it was done ages ago and it's really dried, but this is really nice and strong and makes a really lovely finish. So I'm going to put that inside this, as I did with the backs of these. So I want enough to sit it inside there first, on the back. So just measure it again. So I want it about 5 centimetres. So turn it over because I want it this side. So go 5 centimetres in and then cut it. I'm just going to cut this with scissors. Mark it and cut it. That is not very nice, but I'll just make it so that it's... I can see that it wasn't straight, so I've just changed it a bit there at the bottom. I'm going to put that down across like so, and take off any bits that I don't like because that splays out a bit at the bottom. That's going to sit on the back like so. But I also think that I've just got to put a couple of pieces going round it that way. So I'm going to put them on first. Just cut them by hand. So let's see, I want this. Glue these up. And then judge what I want on there. 1. And then bring that over. 2. There, it will be better there. Okay, so now I've got it like that. And I think I want another mark, but going this other side of it, I want it there. Just measure it up, just quickly before I glue it this time. 1, 2, cut it, glue it up. I want the other side of it, but I want it underneath this. It's a bit too flimsy. Right. 1, 2, 3, and then put that back down again. Put with some more glue. Okay, and then the last thing. So now I've got that bit on there, and then that last bit on there I want. Okay, so get a clean sheet, get as much glue as I possibly can on there. I definitely don't want it that way. I do really, don't I? So I might take off that line I made, because I do actually like that other side, I think. Yeah, those textures are nice, aren't they? Are they? Or do I want that one? Which looks more elegant? That one or that one? I think that one. Right, so it's going to go that way again. Put the glue on this side this time. I think I like the sort of not quite so plasticky or leather or finished look of the other side, but I don't know what's going to happen because I'm going to put some daisy, sorry about that. You can see you can get away with masses. I've got glue on that one as well while I've been, but I'm going to seal them all with acrylic glazes afterwards. Oh, I do like that. I'm happy with that. So there's another one. So you just keep going, don't you? Again, in proper Louise fashion. Get rid of all the glues. Honestly, poor you lot, because I don't know how I get away with it, but I do. There you are. There's another bookmark made. Funny little elegant things. And I'll show you, the next video will be these ones, which are going to be painted. And I'll show you this lovely method of painting. But you can decorate them as well. You know, they don't all have to be collaged. Okay, I'll let them dry and come back to them tomorrow.